Well, good morning, Southern Oregon, and welcome back to the Real Estate Show. I'm Alice Lema. I'll be your host today. I'm a broker at John L. Scott Real Estate here in beautiful Southern Oregon. And I'm so happy to be hosting the first of 2022, the first real estate radio show of 2022. And boy, I don't know about you guys, but I was happy to see 2021 in the rearview mirror. It had its quirks, it had its bumps and bruises, but we all made it through. And we're looking forward to a little more stability and hopefully a little more calm in our housing market, at least here in Southern Oregon. For the coming year. Now, today we're going to have Guy Giles, Mutual Omaha Mortgage, on. He comes on every month. He's the real estate show's in-house lender, and he's going to be talking about predictions for 2022. So you want to hear the entire episode. It's going to be great. Lots and lots of changes coming, and some really good down home advice for all kinds of buyers, whether you're downsizing, first-time home buyer. We're going to talk a lot about the millennial generation. We're going to talk a lot about tenants. We're going to talk about helping if you're a family member or extended family member for some of those folks doing their first-time home buying purchase. We're also going to talk about investing and upsizing if you want to take some of your profit from the huge gains so many homeowners have now in Southern Oregon from just the last 24 months. People are taking their $50,000 to $100,000 gain and upsizing or buying rentals or buying vacation properties. So Guy Giles, Mutual Omaha Mortgage, is going to be here to talk us through, and the 2022 predictions are going to be fun. I always like to hit people with that, just to see. They're in the business. We all watch these markets so carefully every day. And I think it's just kind of good to get an idea of what experts think is going to happen coming up. So we're coming out of an unusually busy season. Normally in Southern Oregon, as a lot of us know, the fall and winter in housing anyway kind of quiets down a little bit of a break, a little bit of a lull. Not so much this year. I think a lot of us were really scrambling to grab those lower interest rates, and there were a few more houses to choose from, a few more properties to choose from in all the price ranges. It was just really nice and refreshing. Thank you, sellers. Everybody put their house on the market in the last 90 days. And I got to tell you, the backlog of sellers, here we go. We've got lots and lots of people getting their photography done, getting their inspections done. Look for the next 60 days to have a lot more choices. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick break and be back with Guy Giles, Mutual Omaha Mortgage. Stay tuned. We got a great show for you. Be right back. Well, welcome back, Southern Oregon, to the Real Estate Show. I'm Alice Lema, broker John L. Scott, and today we have our check-in with Guy Giles, Mutual of Omaha Mortgage, our in-house lender for the Real Estate Show. Welcome back, Guy.
Hey, thanks. It's good to be back.
Yeah, well, so first episode of 2022. Why don't you lead us off with how things went in the mortgage world over the holidays and what it's like now?
Well, it's kind of crazy to say in the second year of this whole pandemic that I had my best year ever, which was kind of nice.
Wow, you guys were that busy.
Yeah, it's been really good. A little bit of a, the winter slowdown, but I feel like that's over all of a sudden. I need to learn to take those little breaks and take them as the blessing that they are, to rest a little bit. And, I'm getting better at it, but not perfect, but as soon as the first comes around, it just starts going crazy again. So,
but does it seem more busy this year than normal?
Are you talking about it during the fall or during January?
Well, just kind of both. I'm just kind of checking in, because we normally have a slowdown in Southern Oregon.
Yeah, well, I definitely had one. I felt kind of before Christmas, between Thanksgiving, probably a week or two before Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then on to New Year's was a little bit slower for me. I had a really good funding month, but that was stuff that I'd put in the pipeline from before, some things with builders and different people. So we had a whole bunch of things closing, but applications were feeling like they were way down.
Really?
And then Tuesday morning, actually Monday, things just started going crazy. I mean, I probably see that just a little bit before you guys because, you know, everybody has their New Year's resolutions and it's either to lose a couple pounds or get their finances in order. It feels, um, I'm seeing a little bit of that, and it's weird timing for that too, because generally we see a little bit of a bump in rates right around the first part of January anyway.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of light trading, and you can have, I mean, there are a lot of variables. Obviously, we have some inflation fears right now and some things going on, but a lot of times when trading is light, you can get the small traders that can move markets just on what they think rather than real true market, you know, things that should be moving the market. So normally you'd have a bunch of the big guys and gals that are moving the thing around, and when they're, you know, resting doing their thing, these other people jump in and they panic over things they shouldn't, and they don't panic over things they should. So you get a little bit of a weird deal. So I think that's part of the dynamic, but realistically, the inflation and the Fed getting concerned with inflation is what's going on right at the moment, you know. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, the inflation is shocking, just in 1 year, the difference between what we're paying for gas and consumer goods and groceries. Do you have any thoughts about how that's going to affect buyers' ability to make a monthly mortgage?
well, I hope, you know, I always tend to get political, so I'm just gonna it's gonna happen. Uh no, I think at least on my end, we do see the rates creep up a little bit, but you know, this calm down a little bit towards the end of the year. Um, that said, when I'm talking about them creeping up, you know, compared to your credit card payments or and all of your other rates, they're still just historically low. You know, so right now, if I'm quoting a low 3%, you know, which a couple weeks ago I was in the twos, it's still a really, really good rate. And, you know, you're not looking at a huge difference monthly, you know, over an eighth of a point or, you know, so I almost tend to get more hung up on it than other people do just because I watch it so closely every day. But we've definitely had a little bit of a tick up in rates. I anticipate that to happen for a little while. And, but I really don't see them going over 4 anytime soon, at least long term.
So, it was kind of surprising for a lot of us. And I'm wondering what your take is on this. When the feds announced they were going to have 3 increases before March. So, first of all, do you believe them that they're really going to do that? And second of all, if they really do that, like, what are the consequences in the housing industry?
Well, it's going to slow things down. I mean, I don't think I don't know what happens to wipe it out here. I think they cause a recession. I mean, that's generally what they do. Um, you know, if again, I'm not going to get into politics and things like that. But
It'll slow the economy down significantly. Is
I
that what you mean by recession?
I do believe so. Yeah. I also think that we're you know, thankfully this latest virus isn't really affecting people like it was before. So I mean, I'm also thinking that some other things will open up in the next few months also, which could actually help some things. So it's not all completely, you know, doom and gloom. And I think especially for our market around here, once, you know, there are people still hold up in San Francisco that are like, I can work remote. I'm never doing another pandemic in San Francisco and I'm going to move, but I can't go look at houses. So once that opens up a little bit, I feel that areas like this are going to be buffered a little bit from, you know, any recession or thing that's happening. Yeah, it will hurt purchasing power. And unfortunately for the local kids and the local people, you know, getting into the market, it's going to put more of a strain.
That's who it hits, isn't it? It's the
It,
folks that live here already and work here locally.
it does. And again, it's just difficult not to get political. They're making pricing hits on people, and it always affects the little guy. You know, the big guy can absorb it, or he can just choose not
Or
to.
at least longer, can absorb it longer for
Yeah,
sure.
and the little guy ends up, you know, dealing with some of the repercussions. That's something I just kind of had saved up for a little bit of a different segment, but there are pricing adjustments for every little thing. If you have an investment property, for instance, you have a 1.25% pricing hit just because it is an investment property. And that's if you have an 800 credit score or if you have a 600 credit score. And then they start adding on top of that for, how good your credit or, what your FICO score is. So anyway, I apologize. It's actually 2.125% for an investment property.
Really?
Yeah. And then if you have
That
a low
seems like
credit,
a lot.
well, it is. And then if your credit's not perfect, so this all has to do with generational wealth and how you might be able to build it up. You buy an investment property. If your credit score isn't great, say it's a 620 to a 640, which isn't horrible, they have a 3% hit on top of that. So you could be looking at upwards of 5.25 or an eighth points. And when I say points, always take that word, throw it out the window, put the word percent in there. So if you're paying
Interest like percent.
yeah, so if you're paying 5 points, you're paying 5% of that loan amount. So that's $15,000 on a $300,000 loan.
So you're talking about the investor non-owner occupied?
Yes. And
Okay.
keep in mind, this is with 25% down, which is a really good down payment.
So that's going to be very discouraging to our investment population who's already in Oregon very discouraged and blue.
Well, tell them that they need to buy before about March because the FHFA is getting ready to jack up some more. So
and why do you think they're doing that? Why do you think they're tacking all this on to the investment community? Like, what is their goal there?
Well, it's beyond investment. It's on second homes. And the reason that I mean, historically, it's always been, hey, there's a little bit more risk. You're going to want a place to live. So if you have a house and you have an investment property and you have to let one of them go, you're generally going to let the investment property go. So the investors build in a little bit right there just because they're thinking, hey, if you're going to walk away, that's the one you're going to keep.
But that is I'm sorry, but we have so much equity in our housing right now, and probably for how many years. I don't understand why they would be so risk averse. That doesn't make any sense unless they think, like, do the bigwigs think there's like some kind of downward spiral coming?
No, I don't believe that for a second. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said we have a lot of equity. Apparently we don't have enough equity. So I think what this is about in a lot of ways is it's not fair for you to have earned 2 houses. Everybody should have 1 house instead of you owning 2 houses. So if they can make this, and I'll probably get JFK'd for all this or something, but I mean, the reality is that they want equity. They want everybody to have 1 house, or I think ideally they would like everybody to live in an apartment in a big city.
I'm sorry. That was a funny, funny little jab there.
Yeah, well, it's sad but true. And and I think a lot of this is really to do with that. Is if you make it to where it's just, to where it's less attractive, then less people are going to be buying them. And in one way it might be okay if that opens up the market a little bit for, the first time home buyer, but those consequences aren't, it never really works out like that. Is all they're ended up doing is charging everybody. And if you're paying rent, now you're paying a lot more in rent. So the little guy always ends up getting hurt anyway.
Yeah. That extra money, just like the inflation prices on all the goods and services, that has gotten passed on to the consumer. I don't see a lot of businesses being able to absorb those prices. Like, look at, we're still talking about the construction industry. And even though a lot of the materials are less than they were 6 months ago, lower prices, and some of the labor is more available than it was 90 days ago, the prices are still really, really high. And I just don't know how it's going to continue to get absorbed, especially in little communities like ours.
Absolutely. And I'll have to pull Brad in here maybe for a segment or something next month. He's the home builders.
Let's do that. He's that now. What's his last name, Brad?
Bennington
Home Builder Association, our local rep for that. Yeah,
absolutely. And
let's talk to him.
He's a guy that just fights for everybody all the time. And it's never about him. It's just about somebody building a house. And, if you're $80,000 before you ever lay the first brick, just in fees and licenses and DEQ and regulation. How in the world is an entry person supposed to be able to build a house? And, everybody wants to blame the builder, but these guys have been cutting margins for a while now. And anyway, well, I think that would be
Yeah. And, having him on in February would be good because all the labor numbers and the material numbers for 2021, the totals will be in, and we'll start to have a little bit of our January numbers. So that would be good. Yeah. Well, Brad, if you're listening, you're on next month.
He's such a good guy and always willing to help. But, I don't want to go all doom and gloom on it. The good news about the market is we're still writing good loans. We have been for years now. I don't see any imminent, massive defaults on this unless,
I don't either.
No, it's a different market than in 09. And if they, we can absorb a lot. And we already have been, unfortunately, yeah, things are definitely more expensive than they were a little while back, but it's still a really good time to buy a house. And no matter what, especially in light of what I'm talking about with some of these extra hits from the FHFA, rents could only go up. So it's probably a good time to really think about getting in a house if you're.
Yep. So hold that thought because we've got to take a quick break. We're talking to Guy Giles, Mitchell of Omaha Mortgage, our in-house real estate show lender. We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsor, of which Guy is one. So do not touch that dial. Well, welcome back, folks, to the Real Estate Show. We're right in the middle of a great conversation with Guy Giles, Mutual of Omaha Mortgage. He's our real estate show in-house lender. He comes on every month. And we had to stop kind of suddenly because we had a break here, Guy. And, we were just getting ready to start launching the conversation about renters and mortgages and all that when we had to take a break. So let's pick that back up because all this chatter about the interest rate increases really scares me when it comes to our first time home buyers.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's tougher as far as, the rates might go up a little bit, but if you think about, I think the last number that I heard was rents go up about 6% per year as far as if you're renting a house. And that's probably pretty accurate just because the source I got it from, but I haven't followed up to confirm that. But if you think about it, you're a little bit more buffered owning a house than you would be because you're in a fixed rate. As long as you're not in an adjustable arm or something like that, you're kind of buffered from that going up. Yeah, your taxes are going to go up 3%, but if you take that out, over the 12 months, it's really not that much money, but you're just at the mercy of the landlord, which he or she, it's the cost of money for them has gone up. So, they're going to charge. And plus,
well, and in Oregon, the rules, it's so hard. It's so hard to be a landlord in Oregon.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you're still allowed to raise up what, 5?
You can. Yeah. The rent control money part, I think, is actually more fair than it was. That's just my personal opinion. So don't send darts my way, but it's the other stuff. It's like the guest policy and the this and the that. And it's just hard. People not paying the rent. We still have the COVID moratorium for the tenants.
Yeah, I think at some point we need to get off that lifeline. I mean, I don't know exactly what the answer is, but that's just leaving your sofa open for your kid for the rest of your life. At some point, you're gonna have to get them out and get a job. At least make them buy their own Xbox games or something. But
yeah, a lot of the millennials I know that joke is constantly going around. A lot of the millennials are pretty seasoned. They've saved up a lot of money, but they're still renting and they're so vulnerable, like you were talking about. And then in the state of Oregon, where landlords are not having fun being landlords, their building goes up for sale. They start looking around to buy a house, and if the interest rates go up, then what happens?
I'll tell you what, I had one of the coolest things. I got a phone call from a real estate agent that was saying this guy's selling his duplex. Is there any way that I can get the people that live there, they're best friends, they don't want to move, to do it? And we closed them last week,
Uh-huh.
actually just right before Christmas. So it's been 2 weeks now, or three weeks. One of the coolest signings I've ever been to. I mean, these guys would literally want to tear the wall down between them. They're such good friends, and they're paying less than they were for rent in this place. The guy was able to get out from under his uh, duplex for whatever reason. I think he's just kind of downsizing. But what a cool thing for these guys to not have to move. They're literally, they had saved a little bit of money. None of them have ever owned a house before, and
Uh-huh.
now they own one together. It's just, I mean, if you can make it happen, it's a really good thing. So
Yeah, but
sure.
so just for that story, were they able to get qualified and buy something?
Yeah, that house. They bought the duplex.
Oh, that's
They didn't have to
awesome. I
move.
love it
Oh,
when
I'm
that
sorry.
happens.
I'm not a good storyteller.
No, that's great. That's
But no,
super great.
yeah, they ended up buying that house. That's supposed to be a good story, man. So there you
And
go.
then did they so were they able to pull that off themselves, or did they need help from parents or grandparents?
They got no help. They had their emergency funds saved up, and with the lower down payments these days, we were able to get them into the house, and literally cheaper than they were paying for rent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Place.
Isn't that something? So
So
it's interesting because if you qualify a first time buyer, or any buyer actually, in that 350 to 400 range in Medford or Center Point, their payments like what, 15, 1800
yeah, I mean,
or
it's gonna
less,
depend
depending
on,
on their down payment.
the down payment's huge. The one thing that's kind of come around in line really nicely over the last couple of years is the mortgage insurance. I guess unless you have really poor credit, because if you have poor credit, it's still expensive. But I've written mortgage insurance for $32 a month. I think I
Wow.
four,
Yeah,
and
because
it
it
was a good.
used to be like in the beginning, it was like a couple
Oh
hundred, wasn't it?
yeah. Oh, I've seen it upwards of $500-600 for terrible credit with a low down payment. So no, it can get very very expensive quick.
Mm-hmm.
So nowadays it's a little bit more driven towards, hey, how is your credit? It's always been driven on, how big your down payment is. There's different marks at 3%, 5%, 10%, 15, just all the way down. But it's definitely worth looking at. In the old days, you have less than 20% down. A lot of people just looked right at FHA, but that mortgage insurance nowadays is forever. And it's a lot more expensive if you don't have a good credit score. But if you have,
Well, and quite frankly, you've got programs for conventional 5% down, and the mortgage insurance goes off when they have 20% equity, right?
right, we
So
actually
it's
have
not that
three.
much more down payment.
Yeah, I mean, if you're lower income, there's the home ready, or even if you have a higher income, so basically you can do a 3% down conventional loan.
A 3% down.
Oh
So
yeah,
that's even smaller down payment than the FHA, because isn't
yeah,
FHA
I
three and
mean,
a half?
yeah, and I always
Yeah,
encourage
that's
people to
stellar.
come in with as much as possible, and then I really have a talk with people, always. How much are you paying for rent? Is that comfortable? I like to just dig a little bit deeper than, hey, I have a 3% loan, and yes, you can get into the house for that, because gosh, if they can give 2% gift from mom or dad, that 5% is going to be better than the 3% down. But that said, it is actually a program, and we do it a lot.
Well, and we just need those first time buyers to get something,
Hmm.
and I know everybody wants their dream house and we all watch those TV shows, but I just want to make a plug for especially the first time home buyers to not be quite so particular. I know you waited a long time, but if you just get an address
Yeah.
under your belt,
Oh my
you'll be
gosh.
better off.
Yeah, I mean, at least just, if there's parents listening or whatever, have your kids just give Alice a call. She can set them up on a search. They can get an idea of what's out there, kind of the price ranges and things. And, I mean, it's better to just get the more educated. The more educated you can get, the better off you're going to be when the time comes. So even if you're not ready right now, it doesn't hurt her to have you on the search, and she'll be sending you out the new stuff every day. And just so you can kind of keep an eye on it.
Yeah, we do have some families that will buy the house and then put the adult kids in there as the tenants.
Mhm.
But they're still not in an ownership position on their own. Um, but that is another strategy,
Well,
so
yeah,
the
and
parents can call Guy and do
we
that. But see, that's a second home or that's a non-owner occupied investment.
yeah,
Is how that works.
or we can run it, if the kiddo just doesn't have enough income and the parents want to help, the parents can go on as a non-owner occupying co-borrower and
So like a partner.
yeah, kind of bolster up the income for the kid. I mean, there are a lot of different mechanisms out there right now, to at least get you into a house, and then you're getting the owner occupied rates at that point. And I'm really,
Yeah.
and to do anything that I'm not supposed to do, but the kids are the owner, and they're occupying the place, so you can get the same good rate that you would have, um, with
Because the interest rate's lower if one of the buyers is living in the house.
yeah, 1,000%. So
Yeah.
1,000%, but
I mean, we would never charge 1,000%, but you know what we mean.
yes. We'll have to see where the inflation lands, but no, it's there are a lot of different options, and and that's just a little different than just straight co-signing for somebody, because you have ownership in the place too, and if your kids, I mean, what are you going to do with it, right? I mean, if it's sitting in a checking account, I'm sure that would kind of hurt.
Well, that's a good point.
I mean, gosh, at least it's invested in something, and
Hmm.
and it's going to go up. So I've been kind of thinking along those lines myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's been really interesting. Some of the first time home buyers that purchased between 2011 and like 2000 and even 19,
Mm.
some of them had that instant COVID Almeida fire pop of 30 to 50,000. And then, if they bought before that, they have something like 60 to $80,000 and they're kids. They're kids and they have all this equity. It's really
Well,
interesting and
well, yeah,
unexpected.
yeah, and I also like what you said about just getting in the game. I mean, you haven't lived till you decorated the tongue on your house, because that was just part of the single wide. But in reality, it was on land when I bought it years ago, and I've made money on that one too. And that was our first little place. And it's going to do a lot better if it's actually on land. Obviously, that's a conversation they'll have to have with you. But there was nothing nice about that place other than it was ours, you know. Um, and and we made money on it, and we were able to buy our first real house, with the money that we made on it. So,
Uh-huh.
is it a dream house, or super exciting to bring friends over and show it to them? Probably not, but at the same time, it was just about being in the game, and
Yeah.
is I don't know. As long as you're not trying to just do it for 6 months and make $100,000, I think investing in real estate is always going to be a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have a place to live and you're not so vulnerable, being a tenant, you are vulnerable to the life situation of the landlord or the money
Yes.
situation of the landlord. So
Oh man. Well, there.
yeah, can be kind of scary. So the millennial people that buy houses right now, part of what slowed them down, at least statistically, was the debt, the lack of jobs or the lower paying jobs, and then the student loans. So when these folks are coming to you now, 2021, 2022, are you seeing that they're able to buy a house because they paid off the debt, or did the lending practices kind of flex a little bit to help them? Like what changed so that they could come in and start buying houses?
Well, we haven't. I think you kind of hit on that earlier. It's easy to get down because you have the stereotypical, hey, I'm sitting in a basement, playing video games all day, and I'm not really going out and working. But honestly, the ones I see, it gives me hope for the future. I mean,
Very hardworking bunch.
yeah,
Yeah.
they've actually managed to save a little bit of money. They got their careers going, between them. They've got a decent income, way more than I did when I was their age. No, we haven't really seen them loosen up guidelines, other than like student loans. We only have to hit them with maybe a 0.5% of
Oh, well, that's good.
the whole thing, is instead of a full 1%. Um, but generally, It's one of those things. I always want to get you pre-qualified, worst case scenario, just and that actually is, if you look at the actual repayment on these things, it's a whole lot better than the actual guidelines would show. But
Well, let's talk about that next. I'm sorry, we have so much to talk about. Guy Giles, Mutual Omaha Mortgage. We'll have a quick break. We'll be right back. Well, hey, everybody. We're back with the Real Estate Show. We're talking to Guy Giles, Mutual Omaha Mortgage. He's one of our sponsors. We're very grateful. Thank you, Guy.
Part of it.
And we were just having, such a great conversation before the break about the millennial generation and how debt heavy they were and how hard it's been for them to get to a place where they could buy houses. And I just wanted you to kind of go over what it's like, financially for one of those folks to qualify.
Well, what I'm finding lately is that by the time they come in to see me, they're a little bit more prepared than they were in the past, believe it or not. So I don't know if they're learning a little bit off the internet, or if people like you are teaching them a little bit better. But I've seen it all from a guy that co-signed for somebody else's vacuum cleaner, so he couldn't qualify because that guy decided not to make his vacuum cleaner payment.
Oh no, you mean like a friend? He was trying to help a friend out.
Literally.
Oh,
All the way to a young attorney that she just graduated and got her first job, and before she saved up for her own house, she just helped her parents finish paying off theirs, and now she's buying her own. And I mean, a lot of these kids are
wow,
phenomenal. I mean, she's got no debt. She's out of law school. She's 28 years old, 26 or 28.
Yep, that's right in the middle of that millennial range.
Yeah. And a lot of them, maybe when they were young, they saw their parents go through, what everybody went through during this last crash. And now they're just bound and determined not to make those mistakes. And
they're so smart, don't you think? Those
well,
millennial folks, they learn so much, like you said, off the internet, and very practical.
Practical stuff, yeah. Don't get your politics off the internet anymore. That's just a
I'm
bad
talking
place.
about financially healing yourself.
Yeah.
We're not a political show.
No. I'm just, but it's one of those. It's just, I'm seeing them come in a whole lot more prepared, or they're just the complete opposite of the spectrum, and they've just heard that you can buy a house cheaper than rent. And I'm like, not when you're living for free in the basement, but yes, if you're actually out there doing it and you have a little bit of a down payment, it can definitely be
yeah, because in Medford, a 1-bedroom, 1-bath is now $1,200 something, and the 2-bedroom, 2 baths are $16, and people are paying it. Man. So if you can get a little house of your own and just have a mortgage and a roommate in the 15 to 18, that really pencils. And I think some of the millennial people don't know that it's more doable than it is.
It is that, especially for first time home buyers kind of starting out, this home ready and home possible. You can give me a call and we can talk about income limits on those and some different things, but you can get in with a smaller down payment. We spoke earlier about mortgage insurance, where anytime you have less than 20% down, you pay what's called mortgage insurance, unless you're a veteran or, in some weird program. But it's one of those things that it's a lot cheaper than just the standard, even though the standard can be really reasonable right now. And the rates are a little bit lower than the going rates. So there is, if you can fit into that bucket, definitely some good loans to be had. Parents can jump in and do it, and then that really doesn't mess with the income limit piece as long as the kids are. And again, it might be a good place to park a little bit of your wealth for now, help out a kid, and then both of you guys have a dog in the fight, so it's not like you're just doing something for them. And
I like that idea.
Yeah, I really thought by now they would loosen up, a little bit more as far as coming out with some more programs. It hasn't really happened, but maybe that's just because the programs that are out there right now really aren't that bad. And, and we're kind of getting them done. I mean, going in back into 100% financing, other than, I don't know that that's a good place to go. And probably that'd be the only place.
Unless you're a veteran.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Yeah.
So,
And it's
so
good for people. It's good for people to save up a little bit of money, in my opinion.
yeah.
Yeah. And the pride that you have of going through that process. And then nobody can take it away from you. It's your home. That's a
Well,
big
yeah.
deal.
I mean, the mild saying, the only thing that sucks worse than mowing the lawn is mowing someone else's lawn.
Well, and you figure, I mean, what is the math on being a tenant for 10 years? If you pay that for 10 years, you're literally buying somebody else a house.
Well, when I was a kid, and you got to figure this was the late 80s, I watched my parents rent a house from the time I was in, I don't know, I guess the 5th grade till right after high school. I know that the people that bought the house did not pay more than $40,000-$50,000 for this house back then, and it was $118,000 in rent that they paid. And yeah, I mean, I
In
think,
that 10 to 15 year period.
yeah, I think that was like
Oh,
650 a month or something too. So,
yeah.
um, wasn't a nice house, 1,200 square feet, no air conditioning, nothing. I mean, it was, but 118 grand back then, for that's almost triple what those people probably paid for that house. And yeah, it's not a bad thing to own your own house, and those rents, especially where they are right now, will add up fast.
Yeah. And since, millennials or any first time buyer does not need, it's not mandatory to have 20% down. I don't know how that idea got out there. So,
Um,
but I know a lot of those folks think that they have to have 20% down and you don't.
no, no, not anymore. I mean, it's always been the conventional wisdom, that hey, you have to have 20% down before you even think about it. And ideally, if you can do that, do it all day long, 90% down if you can. I mean, shoot, call Alice, call
Yeah.
your
But
cash,
I don't
pay
know
cash.
if you figure it takes 5 more years to save up that extra money, then look at the appreciation that they lost in that 5 years.
You know, I think other than having Brad on this next time, I'll get some math together on that so we can actually go over some numbers. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
pretty amazing. And even beyond that, you have tax savings because part of
That's right. Well,
part of
at least
your
for now. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot it's not a political
oh
show.
I God, no doubt. I'm trying to, yeah, I'll
I'm sorry. That's just tongue in cheek because at least in the state of Oregon, they do bring that up in our legislative sessions, the to take away the mortgage deduction. And
oh
I guess federally they do too talk about that, which is
every time,
bad idea.
I absolutely, yeah. I mean, if you just want to do something, oh, I don't know. I always say, what more could they do right now? But then again, there's that.
Yeah,
So
don't. Yeah. So,
we'll
so if you're listening or you have millennial people in your life, but if you're a millennial or you're listening and you have people in your life, think about giving Guy Giles Mutual Home Mortgage a call. You can also Google him. He'll give his phone number here shortly, but the conversation doesn't cost anything, get a little bit educated.
no, I'm happy to talk to anybody whenever, and I just want to help people. And honestly, if there's something out there that truly I don't have or somebody else is better than at it, I have a lot of people that'll tell you. I'll look at you straight in the eye and say, look, you need to talk to this person. So it's a good place to at least start. Have a talk with me, and I'll treat you right one way or the other.
Yeah. Why don't you throw out a phone number so people can get a hold of you?
541-944-6987 is my cell phone number.
Great. Guy Giles, Mutual of Omaha Mortgage. Thank you for being a sponsor, by the way. This show
Oh,
is
thank
brought to
you.
you by Guy Giles, Mutual of Omaha Mortgage, John L. Scott, Medford, Ashland, and also our local Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, RVAR. So here we are starting 2022 with the 10 seconds left. Do you have any predictions for 2022?
Oh man, I think this pandemic thing is going to let up a lot, and I think the rates are going to tick up a little bit, and then just kind of even out and maybe tick down a little bit towards the end of the year. So
Yeah, I'm not sure the feds are going to get away with all those rate increases, and I think they'll chicken out. I agree with you. All
Oh,
right. Well,
man.
that's all the time we have. Thank you, Guy Giles, Mutual of
Hey,
Omaha
thanks.
Mortgage. Alice
Okay.
Lema, broker John L. Scott. Guy will be back next month. I'll be back next week. Have a beautiful weekend. Bye now.
Hey, thanks.